Was in my bedroom. I think it was a Thursday. I'm not even sure what day it was now.
Yeah.
It was sort of like end of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just see a tweet come across my dashboard that says, what if we brought Silicon Valley to Miami?
Mayor Suarez, welcome to Lessons via Leaders. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This feels like one of these Cafecito Tech Talks that we've been hosting.
Yeah,
here.
man, I've been seeing you doing your thing. It's been remarkable. The last 30 days have probably been a whirlwind for you, right?
They have. And although my team, which is an amazing team, does most of my social media most of the time, this last 30-day period has been a lot of me getting involved and engaging directly, which, to be honest, is not something that I planned. It's not something that it's all happened sort of organically, and the response has been overwhelming. I mean, the back-end analytics that Adi sends me every day, our last 28 days, our high point on 28 days was 27 million impressions.
Wow. Our
biggest tweet was about 2.4 million.
That was the How Can I Help tweet.
That was the How Can I Help tweet. And
Amazing.
then we had a few that were close to 2 million. And then, it's just been a whirlwind. It really has been, but it's been exciting. And I think the reason why it's happened is because people are just not accustomed to hearing a public official say, "How can I help?"
Right.
And I think that it's a big lesson for all of us.
It's crazy that we've gotten to the point where a simple tweet, I mean, that was probably a spontaneous tweet, right? Can you take us through like the moment where you're just going through Twitter and you're like, okay, just respond?
I was in my bedroom. I think it was a Thursday. I'm not even sure what day it was now.
Yeah.
It was sort of like end of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just see a tweet come across my dashboard that says, what if we brought Silicon Valley to Miami? And, this project of making Miami, growing the Miami tech ecosystem is a 10-year project plus.
Yeah.
It's not a yesterday project. This is something that's been going on for a long time. And I just simply answered it in the way that I would answer pretty much any constituent, whether there's somebody wealthy, poor, whether there's somebody that's from Miami, not from Miami. I mean, that's sort of, which I found out it was the VC calling card as well.
Yes.
And
that's like the typical statement. How can I help?
And I didn't even know that. I mean, for me, it was really more the typical, what should be the typical political statement, which is like, hey, how can I help you? My job is to help people.
100%.
So when I did that, and it just took off. And I had no idea that it would take off in the way that it did. And I think what it was, people often ask me, where is Miami Sand Hill Road? And my answer is, it's Twitter. Right. And what it did was it was like if I went to a beehive and shook a beehive, and so all the bees started coming out. So
this
all
was pent up.
It was pent up.
Yeah.
All the people who had already moved to Miami started coming out. People who were thinking of moving to Miami, and people who were not previously thinking of moving to Miami, but felt so embraced by the fact that I followed them or whatever the case may be, that I interacted with them, that they were like, hey, this is where we need to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's refreshing to see a politician engaging. And I often tell people, I've been a big proponent about what you're doing, very excited about it. I'm a born and raised Miamian, a lot of passion for this city.
Me too, by the way.
And you are effectively, they think, oh, Mayor Suarez is really active on Twitter. He's talking a lot. You're just listening a lot. I see that's what you're doing is you're retweeting a lot of people, just giving them the opportunity to amplify what they're already doing. All these different initiatives from the Knight Foundation and everybody else that's been building this for years, you are helping amplify what's been going on, and I really respect that. So thank you for doing that.
And that's really the point. The point is how can I help? I mean, what can I do as a one person and one individual to try to move the ball forward? And the truth is that, again, I never thought on that day that I would spend the next 20 plus days tweeting almost nonstop.
Yeah.
It's to the point where I have like Twitter anxiety, if I'm in a lunch or a meeting, I'm like, okay, well, how far behind am I? And there were days where I couldn't get to the top of my feed.
Yeah.
That in and of itself was an accomplishment.
For sure.
And I tweeted till 2:30 in the morning. One day I had people, from Tokyo saying like, hey, we're here, we're watching this. It was like
amazing.
It was almost like a spectator sport. It was funny. And I never would have thought ever that me basically following somebody would motivate them so much to move to Miami or to say that they were moving to Miami. So I think it's been a huge lesson for me too. That's
amazing. And you've been saying on Twitter that this moment is turning into a movement, right? Can you talk a little bit about that, and why do you think people are so passionate about Miami right now?
My job is to convert the moment into a movement.
Right.
And I think we're lucky because we have a lot of great ambassadors, either people who are from the Miami tech community for many, many years, or people who are new, who are now telling what I call the Miami story. So when people often ask me, how can I help you? My answer is, please tell your Miami story and tell it as loudly as possible. When you talk about amplification, which is absolutely correct, I've been blessed now to be in a place where I can amplify the message, right? I started off this month with 32,000 Twitter followers. I ended with 52,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, the reach and the ability and the impressions, like you're saying, 27 million impressions, all organic, that allows the story to be amplified. But I need people to continue to tell the story, because the media, like everything else in life, and there's nothing wrong with that, they have a short attention span and they will go to the next story. But I want to stay on this story. This is our story, right? And this is a story that will influence not only our generation, but it's going to influence our children and their destinies. And it's going to influence our unborn grandchildren or their unborn grandchildren. And so the story of Miami, the future story, is yet to be written.
Yep.
And if we can allow other people to write it for us, we can be sort of passive participants in that story. But I've chosen very early on in my life to be an active participant in the story and writing the story. And I'm just very blessed to have so many people that are helping me tell that story, and I need them to.
I love that. I love that mentality. And I get chills just thinking about all the things that we are hopefully doing for future generations here in Miami. You mentioned it, like on a related note, there's a lot of new folks coming into town. There's a lot of people that have been here for the past decade or so trying to build this tech community. You know, Matt Hagmans of the world, Raul Mos from the Knight Foundation,
Great
the
people.
Medinas, Brian and Maria from Refresh. This
Absolutely.
has been a lot of work over the past decade. How do we ensure that all of these new people that are coming into Miami could also integrate with the people that are already here and make this as successful as possible?
Yeah, and that's part of my job.
Yep.
You know, and it's not an easy job sometimes. One of the things that I want to make sure is that we are as welcoming to them as other cities were unwelcoming to them. The reason why we have an opportunity with people who are creating, making dreams into reality, VC funds, engineers, the reason why this moment is happening, we have to be very conscientious of that, is because other governments and other people didn't want them there. And so they're fleeing to, and it's not too dissimilar from the story of how we left Cuba. You know what I mean? They're fleeing from a place that didn't want them, that didn't want the, that productive class, to a place that does want them. And we have to make sure that we send that message. Now, having said that, they also have a responsibility, right? I think their responsibility is to learn from the reputational stuff that was happening in tech, whether it's true or false or whatever, whether it's a false narrative, even if it is a false narrative. We live in a world where perception is reality. So you have to learn from that. You have to integrate. All my conversations with people in tech have been, whether they're new or old, have been around inclusivity, have been around equity. And so I think that sort of rising tides lift all boats. So the more people that come that are creative, that are intellectual, the more intellectual capital we have, the more real capital we have, that's just going to benefit everybody. And of course, we have to make sure that, and that's my job as mayor in collaboration with a lot of other organizations, that every child in Miami has an opportunity to enjoy that success. And that's part of the dream. Awesome.
Yeah, integration is a big key, right? Yep. Schooling seems to be another major topic that a lot of people are asking about. They come to Miami, they're obviously moving with their families. Where are the good public schools? I know that's another topic you're very passionate about. What are we doing or thinking about doing that could help us with the public school system or the school system in general, putting things like computer science in the curriculum and that kind of thing?
So many things.
Yep.
First, I think we need to tell our story about our educational system better than what we've been telling it. So I think that's, and I'll give you an example. When this began, I created right away a mayor's a tech working group with a variety of different educational institutions, as well as many of the people that you've mentioned. The Beacon with Matt and Endeavor, 500 startups, Refresh, etc. And the idea was, first, we need to tell a better story. I remember Saifi Shu from FIU saying, hey, do you know, or is it known that we graduate more Hispanic and African-American engineers than anywhere in the country?
Amazing.
And the answer was, nobody knows that. And you know what I saw just 2 days ago? I saw Keith Rabois tweeting that. So that message that I took from them, which was new data, new information, which was really always there, and put it out there, it became viral. So to the amplification point. But I think the first thing is we have to tell our story better. And then the second thing is we have to be honest with ourselves when we reassess ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Definitely.
This is not about patting each other on the back.
Yep.
It's great that we're doing the great things that we're doing, but to make a city that really provides opportunity for all of our children and to be on the vanguard of the economy of tomorrow, we need to be honest about where we're at.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that was refreshing from particularly some of the new incoming president from MDC was a real understanding that, hey, we do have some work to do. You know what I mean? Sure, we have this great graduation rate for African-American and for Hispanic engineers, but hey, what are our deficiencies? And then I want to work with the school board, like you said, to make sure coding is a second language, to make sure that, you know, that computer science and computer engineering is something that's taught at a very young age. And then, you know, I think the other thing is I also have to reach out to the Stanfords, to the Harvards, to the MITs, and I have to invite them over too and say, hey, look, we have now this virtuality of our world where you can be in our backyard, if you will, and you can teach your level of excellence without having to even make a huge capital investment. So I think, you know, from my perspective, we have to be comprehensive. We cannot leave any stone unturned. I will say this, one of the things I did learn in all my conversations with founders and VCs is that you'd be surprised how they're not always looking for that quote unquote top tier talent, right? That top tier talent can be expensive. That top tier talent can be sort of high maintenance, sort of difficult to deal with. Oftentimes what they're looking for is what some would consider second tier talent. They don't consider it second tier talent. It's less expensive. Those people are hungrier. Maybe the reason why they didn't go to those Ivy League caliber schools is something that was out of their control. They didn't have the ability to pay for it, or they had to take, you know, they're just life issues. And so I found that to be very, very enlightening because I didn't expect to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. To that point, when I was running my prior company, a company called Live Ninja, we sold it a few years back. We hired quote unquote junior engineers out of WinCode in Wynwood, right? I know you know Yuha and Joe. Shout out to them. They're amazing people, really great people doing amazing things for the community. And I have to say, the quality of the engineers that came out of WinCode outworked some of these senior devs that came from some of the best areas of the country and the best schools of the country. So
there you go.
And it goes back to that Miami kind of work ethic that we have here in the community. That makes it special.
We have a great work ethic. We're very entrepreneurial.
Very.
And I think the other thing is we've been working on this for a while, scaling up, right? With Endeavor and with 500 startups and with a variety of other organizations. There's a part of our ethos, I think, and this is not sort of, this is more anecdotal, not so much empirical, but I think there's a part of our ethos that has always sort of stayed away from scaling. And I think part of the reason why is because oftentimes to scale, you have to sort of take a step backwards to go forward. You have to sort of take less money or something like that. And then I think B is, we have a lot of family businesses and people are very happy with their family business. They're making good money. They don't necessarily see the need to make more money per se. And so that's something that's part of who we are. But I also think that that's changing a bit. And I think that it's exciting because what tech companies are doing, and this is also another misperception. We look at tech as an industry. But the reality is that they're a sub-industry to every industry.
Absolutely.
Right? They're making every industry better. They're making every industry more efficient. Just the fact that we're able to have this conversation, you creating a podcast, we're able to have this out virtually and you know, and you're able to come here and everything is just so much more accessible. And content is really driving all of this. And the beauty of it is that it's not just the 4 or 5 television stations that you were accustomed to or the 3 or 4 channels. Now you can get all kinds of content to really enrich your life.
It goes back to everybody can now tell our story the way we want to tell it, right?
Absolutely, so as opposed to the way they want to tell it about you.
100%. I want to kind of move to the topic of non-competes, because we keep hearing about that, right? A lot of people say they want to relocate their business here, but one of the things that is a potential blocker is the fact that in California they ban non-competes. Florida is something where it enforces. You mentioned on Twitter it's something you would look at the state level or talk to state legislative about. Can you talk a little about that and your thoughts on it?
So I am looking at it. One of the things we want to look at is what is the best practice? Because I think in some of the conversations that I had a really cool conversation with John Oringer, where we talked about it in a Facebook Live. I think maybe there is, and again, I haven't kind of gone through the whole analysis. It's something that for sure I want to take a deep dive into, because what I don't want to do is I don't want Miami or Florida to be losing because they're not competitive, particularly on laws.
Of course.
Right? So we're looking at Wyoming's crypto laws.
Right.
Like why should we be at a disadvantage from Wyoming based on crypto laws? So we're looking at that. We're looking at the non-competes. We want to be fair. We want to have good policy.
Yep.
So we want to do something that frees up employees as much as possible, but protects like intellectual property.
Yep.
Things like that, because people do also, particularly in smaller businesses, you create so much intellectual property. There's so much that's shared with employees, and so we want to be really, really thoughtful about it. I don't know where we're going to end up, and certainly, obviously, at the end of the day, it's not really completely under my control, but it's part of the process. So I want people to help me, by the way, because one of the things I've learned in asking for how can I help is I need help too.
That's awesome.
I'm overwhelmed. My DMs, we're doing the best we can to keep up with our DMs.
Yep.
But it's been overwhelming, which is incredible, the response.
Yeah.
But
that's refreshing that you're self-aware to ask for that help. And a lot of politicians aren't in that spot, So,
I think a lot of people would have just said, hey, I'm getting a flood of DMs. Like, it is what it is.
Right.
Just ignore them. And my view is, in those DMs, there are ideas. In those DMs, there are people who may be looking for connections that we can make.
Yep.
In those DMs, there could be so much treasure in that. And I just couldn't let it go. Like, I just felt like I worked so hard, to get to this moment. And I just didn't want to let it go, because I just thought that and I know I'm positive that there's so much there in terms of these podcasts.
Yep.
A variety of different ways that we can be communicating.
I love that. You mentioned blockchain, right? Obviously, crypto's having a big month, right? It's exciting.
Huge.
I know that, you had Pomp here the other day. He announced that he's going to come to Miami and spend some time with us, and then even, possibly move here down the line. He's looking into it. You were a supporter of the Blockchain Center. You helped open up that project. What are your thoughts in general? I've seen you on Twitter being just more open to making Miami a very crypto blockchain friendly city. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on that, please.
I'm also on the, I think it's the blockchain task force,
Yep.
which is the state task force. I was appointed by Jimmy Patronis, who's the CFO. I believe in the mathematics of it. I believe in the concept of it. So, I understand that it still is not demystified for the general public. And I think that there are probably some people who, who understandably have some concerns about some things. But, I think that there are things that we can do, for example, this year. This year, one of the things I'd like to explore is the ability of being able to process some payments.
Yep.
Right. And do it in a way that doesn't have any risk to the city. Like, for example, have a third party who takes the quote unquote currency risk, if you will. Right. Where somebody makes a payment in Bitcoin of their whatever it is that they're making to the city, that the person who takes the Bitcoin, converts it to cash, they take the currency risk and they give us cash, which is no different than actually getting cash.
Right.
But
sure.
but I think, to your point and to Pomp's point, I think it sends a message, and the message is we want to be on the vanguard of technology, of being a tech friendly and an easy government to work with. I was just at a lunch today where the person I was having lunch with was saying people don't understand, they don't fully quantify the cost that government creates, right, on the ability for people to be successful. And that's something that has always been very mindful of. I came from the private sector. Obviously, one of the first things I wanted to do here in Miami was create e-plans, which was a electronic plans and permitting system to be able to get our permits out faster so people can get to work.
Yep.
Now we have something called eStart, which is we want to be able to start a business in Miami directly from your phone, directly from your computer. Eventually, my idea has sort of metamorphosized into making basically an e-city hall, which is where you never have to go into a government building. That's amazing. To do anything related to government, essentially. And that's something that I'm working on as well.
I love that. I feel the energy that Miami is just trying to be one of the most innovative cities in the country. And blockchain and crypto, we have such an incredible scene of entrepreneurs in that space here. A lot of amazing entrepreneurs building here. So I love it. All right. I know you're strapped for time, so I'm going to end with a quick rapid fire session. I'm going to just shoot off some questions.
All right, let's go.
Right off the cuff. All right. You're big on these cafecito chats, right?
Yes.
Preferred style of Cuban coffee, colada, cortadito. What's your
for sure.
Colada.
100%.
All right. Favorite
By the way, with the caveat that I have not drank coffee in a year and a half.
Really?
Yes.
So you're doing these cafecito shots. You're just being a good host, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
I love
not
that.
a coffee, and that's a long discussion for another day.
Okay, for sure, sure. Favorite Miami sports team: Dolphins, Heat, Canes.
Why are you gonna do that? That's just wrong. That's an out of bounds question. Next
all
question.
of them. All right. Favorite Miami sports moment? All these years.
Favorite? I'm gonna give you a few.
Yeah, give me.
This is gonna go back to 1985. Dan Marino beating the Chicago Bears in 1985 when they were undefeated in the Orange Bowl. All the wide rights from the University of Miami in the Orange Bowl. Yep. The Miami Heat
First championship.
Their
06, right?
first, second, but when they came together, the big three, that
That was
moment
huge.
with, I know that people criticize sometimes like the
Not
event
one,
that
not
they had,
two,
right? But I gave them the key. I was able to give them the key to see. So it was a Miami moment, but it was also, you know, when they inaugurated in 1988, my dad was the mayor. You know, obviously having the Marlins win the championship. So
amazing.
You know, there's just so many great moments in Miami.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good sports moments here. Favorite aspect of being the mayor?
Helping people.
Yep.
It really is. It's getting up every morning with energy, the dynamic nature of our of my life, and I think the people don't really understand that this is a big corporation. I'm running a $1 billion company, $1 billion in annual spending power, right? With 4,500 employees and 4 labor unions. So there's and it's an international city. So anything that happens in other parts of the country or the world affect Miami, and I have to be ready and prepared to be an ambassador to other parts of the world. So that it's exciting.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. Mayor, how can folks get in touch with you if they want to chat with you?
Listen, first of all, my cell phone, 305-992-3342.
That's incredible. It's still, it's crazy that you give out your cell phone number. But absolutely love it.
It's always been the same one.
Yeah.
And by the way, people are surprisingly very respectful. And then, you know, DMs. You know, you can DM me. You can on Instagram and Twitter. I think my Twitter handle is @Francis Suarez. Last time I checked, and at Miami Mayor as well. I think I have one of the mayors. She's looking for it there.
Yep.
And then I think my Instagram is @Mayor of Miami. So I remember that.
Yep.
And we're doing well. You know, we're like you said, we're amplifying our voice, which gives us a platform to be able to tell our story the way we want to tell it, not the way someone else wants to tell it. And I think that's important. I want to keep telling this Miami story. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. We'll drop all of the mayor's contact information in the show notes. And again, thank you so much, Mayor, for having us.